Because there are many people whom you have wronged, there are many people whom you have hurt, and you are in one piece, undistorted, undisturbed, because those people have forgiven you. Just imagine if all people were going to take revenge, then you will be into pieces, probably powder. So excessive hatred or violence, hatred for anything. Most of the time we are always fighting for a cause. What cause we don't know, but some cause we are always fighting for. We always want to be champions of some cause. But that fighting should not be out of hatred, it should be out of love. It should be out of empathy for somebody, not sympathy, empathy. You understand the feelings of somebody and you want to help that person and be helped in the process. You want to feel more noble and you help. Violence in that sense can never be an answer to any problem, and that's when demon starts working. So we have a general idea of how a demon is. Now how do we kill? Like this? Is this how we are going to kill? First of all, the weapons are very difficult to obtain. I mean, those weapons which you see in the picture, they are no good for killing. They may get bent and all that. They are not made of very quality material. And Durga Puja, of course, Mahishasur. Interestingly, last year in Durga Puja, one place, Mahishasur was shown as more subdued, or rather better individual compared to the doctors, lawyers and politicians of today's world. That was a wonderful idea. They had portrayed all these people as asuras, and Mahishasur was a wonderful man lying meekly under Durga. So probably it's true, and we have to kill the demons by finding out the qualities of demon inside us and being on the alert, just like the soldiers of BSF or CRPF. Recently we saw a horde of people coming for election thing, and supposedly election went off very peacefully. Only aftermath of election will tell what actually happened. When I was coming down here, a horde of vehicles was blocking the way, and we found out that these vehicles were actually taking back those CRPF Jawans. They might have done the election security thing all right, but while they're going back, they are causing a lot of traffic problems. So we need to, just like a BSF Jawan stands in that frontier and sees whether anybody is coming into our territory, we need to always carefully, cautiously, alert. We need to keep a watch for these demons, and we need to invite angels into ourselves. Either pray or invite, do whatever. We need to cultivate these angelic qualities within ourselves. And probably the face of a baby is the best reminder for angelic qualities. That said, it's not very easy. Let us see some of the angelic qualities, and because angelic qualities are mostly opposites of demonic qualities and vice versa, first we need to know why these demonic qualities come first place. For example, fear. I will assure you, most of the people have not come here because they are afraid of what will happen here. I mean, what kind of abracadabra is going to be told here. So many people think, okay, forget this and forget all this gibberish and be happy in your room and do something better. So fear. Fear of what? There are primarily many reasons. There are many reasons for fear, but primarily there are two. And the first one is fear of the other. You fear because you have somebody to be afraid of or something to be afraid of. What's that? It could be anything. You fear because you have probably examinations, you fear because you have a career in front of you, you fear because you have students in front of you, probably professors, they fear the students. The students can be very tricky at times, most of the times. So fear of something other than yourself. So the problem of fear is tackled if you can tackle the problem of the other. The problem of gender is tackled if you can tackle the problem of the other. The moment a man talks about his wife, he talks about her as the inferior other. The moment a woman talks about her husband, most of the time, at least in the Indian context, there is an undertone of being a superior other. Husband is somehow looked up to. There is a kind of, so there is pampering of the husband and all. Things are changing, but undertone is always the same. So any problem of discrimination, any problem of difference can be tackled if you can tackle the problem of the other. And why does this problem come? Because this problem arises because we invest a lot of our time in finding out differences than finding out similarities. And why do we do so? Because if I am one with the other person, I don't have any USP, I don't have any unique selling point, I don't have any individuality. To maintain my individuality, to maintain my distinctiveness, I suddenly find that yes, you can find a lot of IIT students, but you know, I am different. I am different. I am not like the ordinary. Believe me, all the IIT students tell me this. So this is how it happens. That's you want to keep something unique. I mean, you are unique. So you find in the market every day some toothpaste coming saying that this toothpaste is somehow different from all other toothpaste. So this fear of the other, this has to go. So we have to probably hunt for similarities rather than differences. If you don't do, then what will happen? This fear will hunt you. Just like here, this tiger is hunting. The fear of the other makes the tiger hunt. Most of the time the tiger does not hunt because it's hungry, or rather for that matter, any predator hunts because it is afraid of the other prey. It may come as a funny thing to you, but you can ask wildlife experts on that. And a snake does not need to bite you, it bites you because it is afraid of you. Most of the natural evolution programs, needles on porcupine or many other things have been evolved, developed because of the fear of the other being the predator or the perceived predator. So we need to always see, because if you think about it, what's the difference between human beings? It would be stating the obvious, but most of the time we overlook the obvious. You have the same kind of structures, you can internal, external, everything. Then why do you discriminate? Today the problem is about discrimination. We are living in cross-cultural environment, all right, but all the same we discriminate. So why? Because we want to hunt something to establish our individuality. There is another reason for fear, and that reason is fear of the unknown. I don't know what will happen. I don't know what I have to expect. I don't know what will come out of all these things. So I start becoming afraid. Not only that, I systematically cultivate this fear within me and within people surrounding me. After school, I have this fear. After college, I have this fear. Before marriage, I have this fear. After marriage, of course, you have this fear. So this fear is constantly working inside you, and you don't know what will happen, because before marriage you have to just fear the marriage. After marriage you have to fear every moment. What will happen next moment? You don't know. It's so uncertain, you see, unknown. Suddenly you are into a unknown territory and you are afraid. It's a simple thing to solve. Only thing, we have to be aware of this every time. We have to always remind ourselves of this. There's nothing unknown in this world, basically. Why? Because if there is anything a human being can perceive, it's been already perceived. There are a lot of manuals about God. That means people have actually seen God. So if people have seen God, you can also see. You would have to go into that direction. If people can, crack the DNA code, then definitely other people can also see. You will have to put some effort in that direction, that's all. Like when you watch a horror movie. If you just remember that it's only a movie, you are never afraid. But we forget. It's very difficult to remember, particularly if the movie is well made. Most of the Indian horror movies are comedy movies because you make up and all that. You never get afraid, you start laughing. But if the movie is well made, you suddenly become afraid for what? Something which was on the screen. Basically, you only switched on the on button, or you took the ticket, purchased the ticket and entered into the movie hall. But we don't remember that. Similarly, fear of the unknown. If you are out of college, there are thousands of people who are out of college and there are so many things to do. It can be done. One monk told me that while he was reading the books of Jim Corbett, wonderful books, when you take up one, you can't keep it down. So he said that he used to be always in suspense. What will happen? What will happen? What will happen to Jim Corbett? Then suddenly one day he understood. He said, no, I started remembering that, see, Jim Corbett was anyway alive, otherwise he could not have written this book. So, small thing. Then that fear went away and he could enjoy the book. Similarly, we should understand that there are very few things in this world which are unknown. And if it is unknown, then it is unknown for most of the people. People don't know how many things about Mars. So many people don't know. So there is nothing to be afraid of. Now, this is a demonic quality which we constantly try to create. And we create it many times in a day. That we have to avoid. And of course, there is another version of this fear of unknown, which is more common actually. Fear of loneliness. I am very lonely. But we don't have any solution to this. Everybody is lonely. If you marry, you are lonely. If you don't marry also, you are lonely. Loneliness cannot be solved by the number of people surrounding you. You may be in a crowd. Of course in a crowd you are lonely. But you may be in a place, in a family of say 20 plus, but still you will be lonely. We have a lot of examples of loneliness. This loneliness is one reason of fear. In fact, there are a lot of accounts in world traditions which says that suddenly this first person, whomsoever he or she was, I don't know, most of the traditions are all from the male perspective. Every time it has to be a he, and it is creating a lot of problem in gender studies. You see, they say why it should not be she. How do we know? We don't know. So I prefer she. So this first person, she was suddenly lonely, and she said that I need a company, and that's how you see the beginning of creation in most of the accounts, traditional accounts. So that's one reason for fear. You're lonely. But loneliness cannot go unless you start analyzing yourself. Loneliness cannot just go away because you have company. Most of the times company brings more trouble. And first you have to tackle yourself, then you have to tackle that person also. Otherwise there will be so many problems. So it's better to be lonely in that sense and analyze yourself than to have further problems by asking for company. But of course you can be fearless. There have been many people who were very fearless. In fact, very, very fearless. Like this man. I believe you recognize him. He was very fearless, you see, very wonderful person, very disciplined person. He had many tastes, literature, music, etc., etc. And what he did was for a very wonderful cause. I mean, he wanted that the entire world should become one race with one identity, with one ethnic root. So he just went and started ethnic cleansing. That's all. He didn't do anything bad from his perspective, that is. So he was not afraid, or was he not? That is a question. We perceive Hitler as a person who was not afraid. But is that the truth? Is that the kind of fearlessness our manual is talking about? We have to think about that. Because we were just now saying that fear comes out of the fear of the other and fear of the unknown. Between these two things, at least one this fellow had, fear of the other. Any race which did not belong to his was the other. So definitely he was afraid. Afraid to such an extent that he wonderfully changed his fear into fearlessness, or at least apparent fearlessness, which called for a world war and all that. But probably we have had more causes of death than this person, but history portrays its own way. So this fellow has been portrayed to have caused many deaths. How about this man? Wonderful. He was also fearless. He did not want ethnic cleansing. No. Prabhakar, liberation of Tamil tigers of Elam, whatever. So he did not want ethnic cleansing. He actually stood up for a cause against the oppression of Tamil people in Sri Lanka. A wonderful cause. And that's the original cause. But later on it went into many other because cause and miscause and so many other confusion. So this fellow also was fearless. He also had the fear of the other. Not in the way Hitler had, because he was not the first person to attack, but he had the fear of the oppressor. He had the fear of the predator. And so he created a lot of confusion. And probably another person who had more fear than him came to eliminate this person. Even that person is considered very fearless. But he also had the fear of the other. So we generally are now seeing models of fearlessness which we find in the society, which we think are fearless people, who we think are fearless people. These two models are obvious. You will say that yes, they are fearless, but then they are arrogant and cruel, etc. But they are not fearless because they have this fear of the other. And then this person who shot into public popularity. You see, this fellow was very upset that Osama was killed. So, very, very upset. It was in papers that he skipped some meals. So, this fellow, he said that I knew I will die, but then I had a cause. What cause, God only knows, but he had some cause. Here again, he had the fear of the other. These people are all popular, but I don't know how many of you know this woman here. Any? Any of you? This woman here is a wonderful woman. Now we saw obvious models of fearlessness, obviously wrong models of fearlessness. Here we see something which is perceived in society as the good model of fearlessness. A model which everybody will aspire to. But I just want to make it clear that our manual is not talking about this kind of fearlessness. Who is she? Her name is Malalai Joya, and she is the youngest parliamentarian of Afghanistan. An Afghan woman to be dressed like that itself is a revolution, believe me. Here is a small account you can read, taken from Wikipedia. This woman was born on April 25th, 1978, But what she did was, post Taliban, the parliament of Afghan is controlled by Taliban. 80% of Afghan is Taliban. And there was a bill passed or placed before the parliament which said that all warlords or war crimes should be pardoned. 30 years of war history in Afghanistan should be simply forgotten. This woman, along with a couple of other parliamentarians, stood against that bill and created a furor. In fact, there is a whole group of people who support her. There is a website which is only for supporting Malalai Joya, and she has written a book, autobiographical, Raising My Voice, and she has been ostracized, persecuted, and she is in the hit list of Taliban. What she says is, she says, I don't fear death. I fear remaining silent in the face of injustice. Wonderful model of fearlessness. Most of us will aspire to such model. But believe me, our manual does not say fearlessness in that sense. Because here again, when we say fear of injustice, we have the fear of the other. This fear of injustice we should not have, definitely, but not by actually aggressively countering injustice, but going well beyond injustice and justice. You have to get to a stage where there will be no difference. At least intellectually you perceive a stage where there is no difference. And from that stage, when you look at things, you understand that some people are less intelligent, like this Taliban people. Then you go out to give them a little more wisdom. But a person who is oppressed, when that person rises in revolt, this is a reaction, not a response. And that is what this woman is doing. All the same, this woman is a splendid woman and she is doing a commendable work. We have another example of fearlessness here, Kargil. This person was awarded the Paramveer Chakra for his daring venture in Kargil. His name is, of course, Sanjay Kumar. This is one model of fearlessness most of us are actually expected to aspire to, but unfortunately I don't know present day how many of us will aspire to a career in the services. It is just not lucrative. Once upon a time in this country, people from great lineages, great families used to just leave all their wealth and join the services. But today it's not the case. In fact, people who have joined the services leave them and come and search for lucrative careers. You see, fearlessness again is something which you perceive according to your understanding. For many people, this is the ideal of fearlessness. What happened is again given here, how he actually saved India, though injured. There is another example of fearlessness which comes from again a woman model. So finally, this is something very legendary, like we see in the movies and all. He goes and then he conquers the place, gets back that place and all that. Very gallantry feeling we get. But again, according to the world traditions, this is not the ultimate fearlessness which we need, because most of the things which are causing fear is coming from within. There is another model of fearlessness. This woman here, can anyone recognize her? Does anyone know her? Her name is Dr. Sunita Krishnan. She has a very checkered history actually, but now she runs an organization called Prajwala, which works against human trafficking. And there's a short information about her. Only one sad aspect I would like to tell you. At the age of 15, this woman was gang raped by 8 men. And after that, her family disowned her, society disowned her. Nobody understood her suffering, but actually everybody just shunned her. In spite of that, she stood strong, and today she helps people who are the victims of such rape or who are sex workers, who are into prostitution. And there is a series of talks called TED Talks, most of you would be aware of, TED.com. In a talk which she gave in India, in Mysore, which was hosted by these TED Talks, she said that people talk so many things of helping and all that, but I have a person who is a big donor and she wanted a house help, and when she was asking for help from me, she said, you please send me some girl, but not one of your girls. Do not send me those girls which you have picked up from red light areas. So that is how we help. You see, our helping is limited. I will help provided you take care. I'm very cross-cultural, etc., etc., but provided my son does not marry somebody outside of my caste. This is our idea of. This is also fearlessness. In fact, this is a very inspiring example, but still I would like to point out to you that this is not the ultimate ideal of fearlessness. Ultimate ideal of fearlessness is this. You understand the problem. You find out the solution to the problems. All problems. Then you are fearless. Because there is an incident, there is a small story about Buddha. Most of you would be aware of that story. A person called Angulimala, who was named so because Anguli means finger. For every one person he killed, he used to keep a finger as a token, treasure. And he made a garland out of those fingers. So he went to Buddha and started threatening him and all that, and he started calling him names. Buddha simply smiled, and then this fellow was upset. He said, okay, why are you not disturbed? Buddha said, what do you do when somebody gifts you something and you don't accept that? To whom does that gift belong? He says, of course, to the person who was originally gifting it. Similarly, you are calling me all names, so I have not accepted one, so it belongs to you. So that is fearlessness. Another example of fearlessness, you know that when, it's a legend actually, Alexander came and he wanted to kill a sage, and the sage said, you are just bluffing because you can't kill me. Because this body may be destroyed, but I cannot be killed. I am the Atman and all that. So that is the fearlessness which has understood all the problems. Having said that, let me again point out to you that most of us are not even eligible for the earlier 3 models of fearlessness. Most of us can't even raise voice against small irregularities, small injustices which we see in our everyday society around us. So it's better that you at least graduate to that level of fearlessness than coming to this level of fearlessness, because it's a process, believe me, it doesn't happen in one day. So most of us would like to, or would want to become fearless like Malalai Joya or Sanjay Kumar or Sunita Krishnan. So this fearlessness can be cultivated, and there is a process. We have to be alert and constantly cultivate. But why do we fail? There is a bottleneck somewhere, and that is there in our system of education. By education I don't mean only the educational system, but also the method by which we educate others. Whatever we can't tackle, we try to avoid. So when we see that the child is always trying to go to the basement or backyard, we say that don't go there because there is a ghost. So the child has the fear of ghost. That's why whenever you see a corridor in a hospital or a library, you actually are afraid. Most of us are afraid to enter into a huge library at say 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, particularly if you are watch some horror movie or something like that. Suddenly you feel that all the books have started talking, something like that, some eerie feeling you have. Most of us are afraid to do many things, probably to go into a corridor like this, because it comes from a fear which has been systematically indoctrinated into us, and we do that. So to begin, for starters, what we can do is we can stop indoctrinating such fear, at least at the personal level. The next time we see